everyone, it's Hayes, and in today's video I'm going to be explaining the Graham de Vanily family story for everyone who didn't quite understand it. Now, I know a lot of people do get it, but some people are just still a bit confused. I get comments about it all the time, and to be fair, I understand where you're coming from. It can be a bit confusing if you're not really paying attention and following it clearly, and it does get interrupted with the Cat Noir scenes where he's fighting his dad, and then Felix and Kagami, like if they keep changing the mask. It's not ultimately clear who is who, so I 100% get it. So this video is for people who aren't quite sure, and for anyone else who wanted me to give my sarcastic spin on it, even if you know what happens. And I hope you will thoroughly enjoy this video, because I did have to rewatch Representation in order to do this.
It's hell in there, it's horror. You have to be a certain type of person to survive.
However, if you are a Senti denier, then this video isn't for you either. So they opened the play with telling Marinette to shut up, which, you know, classic way to open up a play which you're putting on for your friend. This isn't like a West End production or a Broadway show, Felix, alright? Calm down. And they reveal that there is a king and a queen, and the queen is pregnant, and the flags on the castle are the flags of the United Kingdom, which is where I am from. And the king and queen are Amelie and Emily's parents, so Adrian and Felix's grandparents.
However,
I don't think they're actually royalty. If they were, it would make Adrian a prince, even if his mother had, like, given up her title, a bit like what Prince Harry has done. Adrian would still have, like, royal blood or whatever. He would still be royal by blood. And a lot more people would know about him. He would have 24/7 security, he wouldn't be able to go to school regularly. He's famous for being a model and being the son of a famous fashion designer. He would also additionally be famous for being related to the British royal family, which isn't the case. It's not been told in the show. I think if he was, we would have heard about it by now. But, you know, the writing of the show. Maybe not. But, like, if Adrian was truly royal, he'd have far more security than just one bodyguard. He'd get kidnapped all the time. And the same would go for Felix. There is no way he'd be able to just go to and from France whenever he pleased. Assuming his grandparents are still alive, the King and Queen of England apparently, his mum would be next in line for the throne. And then it would be him, he would be second in line for the throne. This boy wouldn't be able to go anywhere without it being a huge thing, so I don't actually think they're royal. I know Amelie's wiki entry lists her as a lady, but I don't know why, since it doesn't even say who calls her that, and you can become a lady without being royal. And if she really was the daughter of the king and queen, and she was the first in line, she'd be the crown princess. So, I don't know. I think they're just called King and Queen and the princesses in the play because the story is being told to Marinette and the audience like it's a fairy tale, and fairy tales do often feature a royal family. Not always, but that is usually the case. However, it does seem that Emily and Amelie are both British, so then it seems that Adrian is British-French and Felix is British-American. So the Queen gives birth to twin girls, and they give the twin rings to Emily, who is the older daughter, and she is referred to as the Curious Princess during the rest of the story, and the kingdom is entrusted to her. As that is usually the case, the firstborn usually gets handed the kingdom or whatever, but they're not royal, so the kingdom could be their company. As we see in Godzilla, they have some kind of production company, or it could be their lordship titles, if they really are lords and ladies, or both. I don't know any lords and ladies who own a film production company, but it could happen. So they grow up, and Emily is really carefree and wants to leave, but Amelie, who is called the Good Princess during the story, is well behaved, like a nerd. I'm kidding. I am her, she is me. I am basically Amelie when she was younger. So the parents are like, Emily's a bit rubbish. You're not supposed to have favourites when you have children, but they do because this whole family is just about abuse. They don't know any other way to raise children. They let Emily leave for a bit, hoping it'll, like, calm her down, but she gets to Paris and she meets Gaby Baby and she falls in love with him. Gabriel is referred to as the tailor during the story, and apparently his clothing designs were just amazing, which is a skill he clearly lost as his hairline receded. So then Emily's parents are like, Emily, this is a terrible idea. But then Emily is like, Daddy, I love him, and she gives up her life in the UK to be with Gabriel, who, whilst yes, does go on to be rich, he wasn't always rich, so it's seen as a pretty radical thing for Emily to live with him, give up her quite nice life in the UK to live a bohemian lifestyle, as it's referred to in France. They get married, and the twin rings are their wedding rings, and Amelie also gets married to Colt, who is referred to as the Warlord, but I'm not really sure what his actual job title is in the real world that would make him called that in the story. We don't know a great deal about Colt, to be fair. Amelie and Emily both want children, but neither of them can get pregnant and ask their parents for help, which I'm assuming was money for fertility treatment or IVF, which isn't free on the NHS if you wondered, but it still doesn't seem to work for either sister. However, Emily does manage to get pregnant, and as referenced by the peacock feathers in the background, it was with the peacock Miraculous. As we see in Evolution, Gabriel has the peacock Miraculous and they kind of go upstairs to make Adrian, but she does get pregnant. A lot of people get confused with the sentimonsters here and think it's impossible since she was pregnant, so let me explain. If you create a sentimonster with the intention of them being a 10-year-old boy who will always be 10 and never grow up, then that's what you get if that's the intention you create them with. But if you create a sentimonster that is meant to grow and age and change like a regular human being does as they grow up, as they age, then that is possible too. In the show, Adrian is 13-14, but Chloe refers to knowing Adrian when he was younger before he comes to school. So since Adrian is a sentimonster, he was created with the intention of being the same as a human, hence why Emily was pregnant with him. She was basically pregnant with a sentimonster, essentially. Colt was pretty annoyed when he found out that Emily got pregnant and Emily couldn't get pregnant, so he goes to Paris and he beats Gabriel up. Emily wants her sister to be able to have kids as well, so Gabriel says to Colt, it's all Gucci, use the peacock Miraculous, although he pretends he's only just discovered it, even though we already know from Evolution that's how they made Adrian, and in exchange, Gabriel wants Colt to give him his best knight to guard his son, which is Adrian's bodyguard, here referred to as a knight. So Colt takes the peacock Miraculous and makes Felix, and his outfit is just stunning, by far the best peacock Miraculous outfit. Emily gets pregnant, but sustaining that life with the broken Miraculous makes Colt very ill, and I would assume the same happens to Emily. Felix and Adrian are born, but as Felix grows up, Colt gets more and more abusive as he gets more ill, and hurts Felix by controlling him with the amok to a point where he nearly kills him because he damages the amok. Colt eventually dies not long before the events of the rest of the show start, as referred to in Felix. Adrian didn't go to Felix's dad's funeral, he is already dead when the rest of the show starts, and Felix basically realises that the ring controls him, so he takes the amok to kind of protect himself. He also realises, though, that there is a magical amulet that can also have control over his life, can determine whether he lives or dies, and the magical amulet, as we all know, is a peacock Miraculous, so he goes to get it, and Felix goes on to describe what happens in Strike Back. He tells us what he did in order to get it to save himself, as his uncle, who's referred to as the Tailor, threatened to snap him in episodes like 409 Daddy Agrest. And then the play ends with Felix telling Marionettes that he fell in love with Kagami, who is also a sentimonster, another miraculous girl like him, and they needed to take down Gaby Baby so they can date in peace. It's a very good motivation. Not, hey, we know who Hawk Daddy is, so you can finally save the city. It's, yeah, we'll tell you, but only if we can date. I really don't understand why they made that the motivation in the end, but there you go, besties. That is the very brief version of the Graham de Vanily story. There are bits missing, like I said before, we don't know a great deal about Colt's past, other than the bodyguard was under his employment somehow, some way. He also died, but I'm not really sure what his job was. I'm assuming he sold weapons, but I don't know exactly. I'm unsure. I don't know, and we know he was American, but that's all we really know. And there's no mention of how Natalie comes into the story, as we've also seen in other episodes. It's seen they went on an expedition to Tibet and they found the butterfly and the peacock Miraculous, but that isn't mentioned in the play and representation, but I would love to know more about it. But anyway, that's the story as it stands at the moment. I hope that was a little bit clearer for those of you who didn't get it. I'd love to know what you think, and I'll see you in the next one.